Great day, world. Welcome back to the channel. This is the Corey Webster Experience. I am your host, Corey Webster. I am C Web on all social media platforms. And the voice behind the camera is Queen. Queen, what movies you like? Any favorite movie?
Any favorite movies?
Movies, yes, ma'am.
Ah.
Not sitcom, not, we used to call them sitcom. Now they're called series. Or is there a difference between sitcom and series?
Yeah.
Well, not those. Just
No.
What's your favorite movie? I don't know the difference. If anybody out there know the difference between sitcom and series, and if the only difference is age and time, then let us know that as well.
Favorite movie on the list would have to be Equalizer.
Equalizer, 1, 2, or 3, or the original.
All of the above.
All of the above. Are those the ones with Denzel?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, I like the Equalizer. Any other oldie good movies that you haven't saw that you need to catch up on? Like,
Menace to Society.
A Menace to Society, a Boys in the Hood, what, a Paid in Full.
Menace to Society was one of my favorites.
Yeah. What else? What's the other one? Chicago, Poetic Justice. Any of those? When is a good time to introduce your kids to those movies? Because hold on, we had one that we recently watched. It was I don't want to mess it up.
It was Bruce Leroy.
Bruce Leroy.
The Last Dragon.
The Last Dragon, that was the name I was going to say. Bruce Leroy was the actor. The Last Dragon. Our kids like, what is this? I haven't saw this. Or I think Uncle was like, hold on, man. We doing y'all the injustice. We ain't never let y'all introduce y'all to The Last Dragon. You know, we got to get ourselves right.
With introducing movies like Menace to Society and what was the other one you said?
Boys in the Hood,
Things like
Paid in Full,
if you were born
About It,
in
The Block is Hot.
if you were born in 1980 and earlier, you had that understanding, that mental capacity to know that this is just a movie. This is for educational purposes, but also entertainment purposes. But kids nowadays, it might be too literal. Like, I want to be like him.
They want to act it out.
Correct.
Almost like how the music is
Yes,
going now.
even though they might have the fine print on the bottom of the screen, they may not read that part.
So you have to make sure that they are mentally stable enough, have emotional intelligence
Correct.
to the level where they're not going to act this out. Or that's a great time to introduce, or have a conversation about those factors like mental health or, this is just a movie. You know what I mean? These are just songs. Movies are entertainment or is entertaining, but songs are the same. It's just entertainment. It's just guys that's, putting words together, and they do it in a very artistic way. And some people have more meaning behind their music than others, but take it with a grain of salt.
And remember, in those films, there were always grandparents or parents or some older person giving them advice, giving them lessons. Hey, this is what redlining is. So they were teaching in those movies.
Yeah.
But today, you may not have that same input in the kids. So we just gonna do what we see that looks fun, and bam, that's it.
Yeah. And I would say, even from the music perspective and entertainment, man, you got a lot of gems from music that we was listening to growing up. It can help you navigate your situation, your town, even though a lot of those entertainers, and from the most part, they was from the West Coast, the East Coast, or from the major cities, or moved to the major cities, and they were telling a story based off of that. But if you use those, spoke the language, use those lessons that they was teaching in their music, it can help you, throughout your journey. You know what I mean? As far as navigate the streets or navigate life. Nowadays, I think we have more rappers and less poets. You know what I mean? I think even in those days, even though guys may have been from the street, they were more poetic than just, rhyming words and things of that nature. So, yeah, we got to start, checking out how deep your movie lineage is. You know what I mean? And with that being said, we got to jump straight into it. You know what I mean? We reported on it briefly about Shannon Sharpe and his lawsuit that has been filed. It's no longer Jane Doe. I think it's pictures and everything that's floating around about this young lady. Again, I don't take this lightly because there are some individuals that have been in this situation and it's hard to come out. And I want to, give those people the support that they need in order to bring these type of conversations to light if they're having an issue. With this current situation right here, and this young lady right here, it does look like a money grab, but for a guy like Shannon Sharpe, he put himself in this situation, right? You know what I mean? I have 4 guard girls, and I'm just my opinion. This is, opinions is good for entertainment. You know what I mean? Your perspective, that's good for entertainment. The fact's going to come out with this case, and it's going to be handled in court, or they're going to settle outside of court. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But I have 4 guard girls, and those ages are 24, 21, 20, 16, 17. And for the 24-year-old, I'm never looking at her, any of them, or her friends like that's something nice, or like we on some type of a mental, I don't know. I don't even know how to say it, you know what I mean? But I'm never looking at them in that way, shape, or form. So that's for me, because I'm just not on the whole kick of, oh, she's illegal. True indeed, they have laws based off of, whether 19, 18 is legal to buy cigarettes. You know what I mean? 21, you're able to gamble or buy cigarettes or alcohol. But even when it comes to dating, she's legal because she's 18. And then we kind of normalize it because it's above the legal age. For me, it's still just a little cringy. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying you can't date younger people. I'm not saying women don't do it. I'm not saying men can't do it. If that's your preference, that's your preference. But for me, it's a little cringy. You know what I mean? I just don't see what type of mental capacity there is from a 56-year-old to a 20-year-old. Now, I'm not saying he did anything illegal based off of the laws and the stipulations that we have that 18 is legal to date and things of that nature. And in some states, some countries, it's 16. And I'm not saying that, others before him, hadn't partake in this. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's right that they did it, because I know we go on this whole thing about, well, so-and-so did it, this person did it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for me, my preference, I look at it from a standpoint of maturity, of experience, and what does that person have to offer you? I'm always, and not that we have to be cliche, like I come here to get something from you, but I should be bringing something to you as well as I should be getting something back from you. And I'm not talking about in a sexual, physical way. I'm talking about in an intellectual way. Like how can those minds, one is undeveloped, you know what I mean? If we're going to talk about, when we talk about the streets, you know what I mean? And we talk about, kids in the streets making decisions based off of their experience, and it's a undeveloped mind that's making this decision. Well, there's the same thing that's happening to this 20-year-old, you know what I mean? Also that's alarming to me, she's an OnlyFans model. And I don't know anything about OnlyFans, but for me, OnlyFans is a platform that sell, nudity, fetishes, you know what I mean, and things of that nature. So, again, it's innocent until proven guilty, and I think the facts are going to come out. And but the facts now have, they have filed a $50 million lawsuit. Also, man, they have also released a 30-second clip of Shannon Sharpe saying some cringe-worthy things. Again, that doesn't make him guilty, but I think it affects his character. It affects his image in a way where it's going to have some, rebuilding to do. It's going to tarnish his name. And for me, I got kids. I can't see myself dating an individual at the same age, or could be, dating my son, or could be, one of my god girls' friends. I can't see that. You know what I mean? So, but from the young lady's perspective, some facts that came out. Shannon was living in LA. He moved from LA to Nevada. You was living in LA. You moved from LA to Nevada. So that's kind of red flag, saying that, some of this stuff you may have been into. Both of you may be fulfilling each other's needs or fantasies or whatever that may be. You know what I mean? Some of the wording, I won't say it. The tape is out. Some of the stuff that was being said, that's kind of cringe worthy. I don't know what kind of fantasy that is, but everybody, to each their own. You know what I mean? It's not for me to, like it. It's for that individual. I'm just saying, in my personal, I don't see no way, shape, or form that a 20-year-old, can match that intellectual and be able to enhance you and make you a better person like that, because they don't have enough life experience to be able to do that. They haven't done nothing yet. 20, I'm 2 years out of high school. What type of, level of intellectual, not to say they're not a smart individual, but if that's for you, you have to do it smart. You have to do it, a lot of red flags, even in him speaking to this young lady on the phone, the little 30 seconds that they released. And he talked about, hey, you only release, 30 seconds, it's 10 minutes of that, So, or talked about they're going to release a sex tape that may be, 30 seconds of it, and he's saying release all of it. So I'm saying if he's saying release all of it, then that 30 seconds must be like cringe worthy, or it might be some wild stuff that's going on in that 30 seconds, Another thing, man, we have enough information out here and enough experience that you have to be smart about what are you doing, Even text message, man, everybody is, the media now. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody can record your, voice, your call. Everybody could screenshot your tweets, your text message. So, it kind of looked like, he put himself in a situation of sending these tweets back and forth, or he trusted this individual to a level that that he made to check his trust level and things like that moving forward. Again, I'm not saying that she's the problem and he's not the problem. I'm just talking about this this whole situation in this whole. If she was done wrong and she, put her rape, sexual battery, emotional distress, all those things out on the table, and they find him guilty, then he has to suffer the consequences. But I also say this: when you go to a lawyer instead of the cops when you have these issues, that kind of also, sends me a message that it's about money more than it's about the safety of the individual. I don't know if it's going to come out that, he had or she called the police on him a number of times. I don't know none of the facts right now. I'm just talking about the stuff that we all know right now. We go to a lawyer to have a civil suit and not a criminal suit. And I also say this, I thought it was kind of, I don't know what to call it, but he brought up Jay-Z name, inside of your situation that you have going on. I don't think it's cool to bring up other individuals' name, but I'm also going to say that Jay-Z, I'm sorry, not Jay-Z. Jay-Z handled it like, hey, let's not go to no civil court. Let's go to criminal court, because if I did those things that you're saying that I did, I should be put in jail for it. I'm not, giving no money. I'm not settling out of court. Take me to criminal court. And ironically, all that stuff went away. We didn't hear nothing about Busby talking about this case anymore. It just kind of vanished. And, they talked about, maybe she was lying or whatever the case may be, but we never heard about it before. But I also think that, for Shannon Sharpe to bring Jay-Z name up in his case was kind of, I don't know if you want to call it a slick move or, kind of greasy or whatever like that, but that wasn't cool. I also say that, man, when you hear the guy named Busby, it's like, that's kind of, he got the slick back hair. Not to say that people got slick back hair ain't good people, but he does sound like a lawyer that's, whether it's black, white, whatever, He mentioned that Busby go around and tried to get black men. He does sound like one of them 1-800, one of them lawyers that's on the big billboards. Like, if you got a problem, come to me, I'm gonna get your money, So, for individual, whether it's a man or a woman going to Busby for representation, representation matters. You know what I mean? It's going to come with a narrative. And I think that all those things put together is, says that, it's more about the money than it is about the criminal filing. You know what I mean? But again, Shannon, put himself in this situation. You know what I mean? So, all for the other guys, you got to be mindful of that, man. So whenever this come out, everything's put out on the table. Also, both lawyers did say that Shannon wanted to settle before all this got started, for $10 million. So when you want to settle with people, it's some truth there. And what I mean by some truth, not that he did anything illegal, but it's stuff that you may not want to get out that can tarnish your reputation. And I always said, and a lot of people around us always talked about, if it's stuff that you don't want to come out, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? Because, man, it's an old saying. Where's Shannon from? If I'm not mistaken, from Alabama?
Yes.
He's from Alabama. And I know, how your boy said, it's an old saying out in Louisiana, just like it's an old saying in Alabama. You know what I mean? What happens in the dark gonna come to the light. So if you don't want it to be exposed, just don't do those things. You know what I mean? Especially going back and forth through email, DMs, having these conversations. It's just a new world, man. You 56, she 20. You know what I mean? She know how to be a little more savvy with the devices and things like that. If you ain't understanding these things, man. So for all you other, and I'm gonna say this too. Monique told Sharpe this on his show. Monique said now and say, man, stop messing with them little young girls, man. Come on. Stop messing with them little young girls, man. She said you need to be, one of these women that's gonna cook for you, a little seasoned women. You know what I mean? That's gonna take care of you, lay down next to you. She kind of said that. So that aging, I guess, appropriately for her. It might not be aging good for him, but appropriately, that age well. You know what I mean? Just giving people good sound advice. So, with all that being said, we got to move on.
I want to make a correction. He is from Georgia.
Georgia, country. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing wrong. Louisiana, Georgia. The 13 originals, you know what I mean? Below the Mason-Dixon line. It's a saying in Georgia, just like it's a saying in Tennessee. Fool me once, don't fool me again, you know what I mean? But yeah, you know what I mean? Moving on. So all these youngsters out here, they got guys that's about to get drafted. They got, businessmen. They got guys graduating from college that's going to, turn professional in something other than just sports and entertainment. You know what I mean? So let's rat off, you know what I mean? Because it's a new world. And I always talked about this. When we was coming up, moms may have been, you may have the cool mom, but nowadays you have moms that, and not just moms, dads as well, that's in the club with their sons or with their kids. So I said this a long time ago, man, it's going to get real tricky for dating in this era right here, and now we're seeing it, you know what I mean? So right off, I know you said you had some, you're trying to put me in the corner to answer some of these questions, but I think we're ready.
All right. Starting off with basketball.
Basketball.
Yes. All right. First question.
Hold up, where we going? We going to playoffs?
Yeah, Bucks, right?
Oh, okay. Bucks versus the Indiana Pacers. Indiana Pacers went up 2-0. Mm-hmm. Damian Lillard came back. He had blood clots.
All right.
I think in March. So he hadn't played in like 3.5 weeks. So he got a technical foul. So the passion is there, but, he got a technical foul when he was in street clothes. Mm-hmm. So, you got to hurt your team because you're not helping them on the court. So, oddly enough, the Bucks are now 0-2.
All right. So my question is, can Damian Lillard return to full uniform and take pressure off Giannis, or will lingering injury concerns keep him from being the closer that Milwaukee needs?
First of all, they had injuries last year. So last year, Giannis wasn't available and Damian Lillard was there. So now, lingering injuries seem like it's been a problem for the last couple of years with these two or with the team. This year is not just, coming back because first of all, blood clots are scary, you know what I mean? So him coming back in 3 years, like, give the guy, a pat on the back, you know what I mean? Now with that being said, it's still basketball and performance is, the basis of that. I don't know if he can knock the rust off to be able to, be the guy that he needs to be, meaning the Dame Lillard that he was in time to help them get over the hump. Because all these other guys are well-oiled machines. You know what I mean? They've been playing, the continuity, the chemistry. He has to get his wind back, you know what I mean? His conditioning. And not only just conditioning, get up and down the court, the conditioning to play the style of ball that Dame Lillard likes to play. And, I think that's going to take some time, and I don't think they have time. These games are scheduled, you know what I mean? So I don't think they make it past this game. I'm just hoping that they don't get swept.
Okay. Great job. All right. Now, my next question. Is Coach Doc Rivers making the right defensive adjustments to contain Halliburton and Pascal, or are the Bucks simply getting out-coached and out-hustled?
That's a great question. Why is that a great question? Because it's so in-depth, what I mean by that. Other than the Boston Celtics with Hall of Famer Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, number 3 best shooter in the world, Kevin Garnett, another Hall of Famer, Rajon Rondo, Hall of Famer, right? Winning that championship, what has Doc Rivers ever done? So we talk about him like he's up here with the upper echelon of coaches. And I'm not trying to, because we have these conversations right here. A lot of individuals talk about race. All right, like, you're not supposed to say certain things when it comes to, other black men and things of that nature. I'm not knocking him. I think he's a great guy. I think he was a great player. I think he's a great coach. But he's not with the coaches that have won multiple championships, the coaches that have developed other teams. You understand that? And being with those teams. So you asked me about the adjustments that he's making now. What are we expecting him to do? You know what I mean? What is his expectations? You know what I mean? Are we expecting him to make the right moves to get this team to championship level? Because they was there. This team won a championship.
Right.
So, they fired their coach. This is one of those teams that I was talking about, within the, 4 or 5 year span, you win a championship, right? You get rid of some key players that help you win a championship, right? You get rid of your coach. You bring in a new coach. That new coach brought Doc Rivers in as a mentor. That new coach is gone, and Doc Rivers is the head coach. So I just don't know what the expectations of Doc Rivers and what he does. It's not like he, just win championships everywhere he go. So I think the decision that he's making is the decision that he's making. You know what I mean? I don't know if they're championship level decisions because he only won it once, and that's the only thing I have to compare it to. I would say this: they have Kyle Kuzma, who was, experienced, winning the championship with the Lakers, was sent to Washington, and for 3-4 years didn't know what the playoff feel like, and it just seemed like they have him in the starting lineup, and he hasn't woke up to understand that he's playing in April. This may be foreign to him because the last couple of years he haven't been playing in April. You understand that? Being with the Washington Wizards. So I think some adjustment needs to be made in the lineup because Bobby Portis, he's a true professional. You know what I mean? Some people be talking about my man and his serious eyes, but he's a true professional. He understands how to, play deep into the playoff. He also was a part of that championship team. So some of these players need to wake up and step up. Know that, there's opportunity for you to step up. Damian Lillard is not 100%. So again, we talked about individuals that can take this opportunity in the playoff and become a household name. Kyle Kuzma is in that situation as well. Other guys that are on that roster is in this situation as well. So are they going to step up and help by committee? I don't know. And I don't know if Doc Rivers is the problem, but I also can't say he's the solution.
Okay, nice. Gotcha. All right. Moving on. So are we going to go with Ant-Man now? Because I have a question about.
Well, you can say Ant-Man if you want to, just because I think this one right here, Memphis Grizzlies, Oklahoma City Thunder, OKC. I just don't think Memphis have enough. You know what I mean? Okay, see you later. You know what I mean? I don't know if they get a win. I saw them competing a little bit last night. But I'm not going to lie. I also see the energy and the, I don't know. I don't know what you want to call it. Just the vibe, the mood, on Jai's face. It's like he's not interested. You know what I mean? I saw him caught one and took a shot off the side of the backboard last night. I was like, whoa, okay, this is where we at. We just gonna try stuff. We just trying stuff. So I think, Memphis is understanding, they got rid of a lot of pieces as well. They fired their coach. You know what I mean? They also got rid of Brooks. And I know people was like, man, I don't like Brooks. Let me tell you about Brooks. Brooks is one of those guys that you want to pick first. He's one of the guys that you don't want to play against. And he brings a physicality. He's the heartbeat. Let me see if I could give you an example. He's like the Draymond Green of teams, like the Dennis Rodman of team. And he could score the ball. You feel what I'm saying? So he's one of the guys, man, people don't want to go up against, but they want to pick him first. They lost that. And I don't see that physicality from anybody else. You know what I mean? And I think that's hurting him now. Right? He moved on. He's doing well where he's at. You know what I mean? His coach appreciate that style of play. And I don't think that Memphis did anything to fulfill that void. So I just don't think Memphis had enough. I don't even think they get a game. I don't think they win a game. So that's easy. How one of the old coaches say, hey, nobody really care about it, man. It's gonna be SGA. All those boys are balling, man. They had a couple of people in double digits, double figures last night. SGA had 27. Jalen Williams has 22. Chad had 16. These boys hitting 3-pointers. Every time Memphis made a little run, I think the closest they got was 6 points. But every time they made a little run, them guys just picked it back up. You know what I mean? When they got to 6, you could see that, OKC maybe was getting a little bored. Hey, but they quickly, 3-pointer. Still, they get a lot of points off turnovers, and they, just take advantage of that. So I think... this is a development, learning year for Memphis Grizzlies. Zach Edey, I think he can be a big part in a success going forward if he don't get discouraged and just take this as a learning curve for him because he's playing as a rookie. So I think they can have a good future, but they're going to need somebody there that's the enforcer, the Horace Grant type guy, the Bill Laimbeer type guy, the Dennis Rodman type guy. So with that being said, Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Lakers. I still think the Lakers in trouble. I ain't going to lie to you. Even though the Lakers got a win, they tied the series up last night, I still think the Lakers are in trouble. I just don't think the Lakers can play and win this series by isolating Rudy Gobert. I also think last night they challenged themselves, the Lakers, that they didn't match the physicality of the Minnesota Timberwolves in Game 1. So they matched that level of physicality. I think what happened was once they matched it, I think Minnesota said, hold on, y'all ain't more physical than us. So they took it up another notch, and that got them in foul trouble early. I think in the first half, LSU, Reed, he had 4 fouls. I think another one, the point guard, I cannot pronounce his name. He played at Villanova, I'm sorry. I'm not going to butcher your name. But he also had 3 fouls. So those guys was kind of non-existent as far as just for being in foul trouble. It starts with a D. I'm not going to try it. I won't do it to him. Pause. But those guys got in foul trouble early in the first half, so the Lakers had opportunities. They made shots and things of that nature, but I just don't see them isolating Rudy Gobert and winning this series. So I think they have to do something with Hayes, their center. It should be a few lobs, where he could get, 10 to 16 points and get involved. But I think he's going to have to be a big part of it in order for them to win this series. And I think they have to make another adjustment. Now, we're about to see how well first-year coach J.J. Redick really is. Because if he can make that adjustment after, getting one win and make that adjustment and steal a game back in Minnesota to get them back the home court advantage, then, we got something to say. Yeah. Yes. You know what I mean? And then also players, I don't think those players from Minnesota is just not going to show up again. You know what I mean? Collin didn't have no points. I think he went 0 for 5. You know what I mean? Daniels, you know, you can see how he was getting frustrated. He started tripping people on the court. He only went like 3 for 8 or something like that. I think those guys are going to show up. You got that name for me?
Dante?
Yeah, Dante Deladova. I don't want
DiVincenzo.
something like that. Yeah, so I think those guys are going to show up. You know what I mean? They only had 2 guys in double figures last night. That's Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, you know, man, playing well. They had a monster dunk on Hayes. You know, getting dunk on is a part of the game. You know what I mean? It's nothing to be ashamed of. But, yeah, how they say that? I think Minnesota in no less than 5 games. Maybe 6, all right, but I think it's 5. If Lakers can't make them adjustments like I just talked about. But go ahead, you said you had some questions on.
Yes. All right. Can Anthony Edwards sustain his offensive load, or will the Lakers' experience eventually wear him down?
Nah, I think he can, you know, it's early, he's young. You know what I mean? It's the first series of the playoffs. I think him and I think some of his other players are going to step up too. Walker Alexander, Daniels, Conley, Dante. I think all those guys are going to step up as well. I don't think the experience with the Lakers is going to get them over the hump right here. I think they need some more, you know, young legs, you know what I mean? And young legs from a front court perspective, you know what I mean? They need some, they can't just play small ball and beat them. You can't just ISO Rudy Gobert and beat them. I think they need more.
Okay. Cool. All right. So will the Lakers' big 3, LeBron, AR, and Luka, find consistent rhythm together? Or is this series exposing chemistry issues under pressure?
I don't think it's exposing chemistry issues. I just think that they have to go about winning and getting their points in a different way. I think those 3 are going to get their points. I think those guys can, you know, go one-on-one to get their points, but I also think those guys can knock down, you know, some rhythm shots and things like that. You know what I mean? I also see that LeBron finally has a guy that's willing to take the number 1 position, the role, and he can play number 2, which they try to get Anthony Davis to do, but it seemed like his workload didn't decrease with Anthony Davis. You can see Luka now holding that number 1 spot down. And you can also see AR, Austin Reeves, you know, playing his role. He's probably the best, you know, number 3 option in the whole NBA right now, just to be honest, you know what I mean? But I think they need the 4th and 5th and points off the bench to be able to, you know, sustain success going into these playoffs.
Gotcha. Okay.
A-Man got more of a group, a supporting cast that's going to help him through this series. I don't know how far that get them going forward because, you know, the chemistry can happen in these playoffs. You know what I mean? And these guys, you know, start gelling together like they once was last year and get them over the hump. So you never know. You know what I mean? You could find this team right here in the Western Conference against, you know, whoever. You never know. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, these first round is going to be intricate in how they catch fire, how people start working together, how people start, you know, making shots and playing defense and things of that nature. So I think the upside goes to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Lakers got to make some changes and adjustments going forward.
Mm-hmm. And that is it.
Yeah, but it's been fun. It's been fun. The NBA, these first couple of games have been fun. And I've been locked in watching them. So that's it. You know what I mean? You got some dating questions. Are we going to teach these young lads how to date? Or just give them perspective? We're not going to teach you how to date. We're going to give you a perspective on what's happening. Okay. What to look out for, maybe. I don't know. Okay. But with all the stuff in the media, we have to address some of the dating issues with, you know, modern versus traditional. I don't care what it is. You know, you have to learn your partner, whoever that is. You know. And you have to have a higher power. You know, when you're looking for a partner, make sure that that partner is not putting you first. I know that's going to sound crazy because most people are like, no, he better put me first. You know, no. Make sure that partner has a higher power first. Because if they're governed by a higher power, then you're going to fall perfectly in line with whatever is going on, especially if that higher power is the Most High. You know what I mean? If he's a spiritual person and he has, living under and fighting the principalities of the dark world with a higher power, then if, I want to date that person, I know I'm going to fall in line because he's not, trying to hold himself or herself up to your standards. You know what I mean? They're trying to hold themselves up to a standard that's greater than them and greater than, the people of this world. You know what I mean? They're in this world, but not of it. So if you have a person that's working on that, man, everything's going to fall perfect. But now, if you only seeing a person for their looks maybe, or for the attributes, or for the what they can do for you, or for their profession, well, then things are all out of whack. And then I think that's where the problems lie, right? Do you like that person for who they are or what they can do for you, or vice versa? Does that person like you for who you are or what you can do for them? And I think, it might sound tradition because we're in this fast-paced microwave society where we want it right now, but it takes time to develop a relationship. A lot of the relationships that you have, and if they're meaningful, it took time to, nurture those relationships. So if you're not willing to put in that time and you think it's going to be some quick fix, you're sadly mistaking yourself. And that's where the problems arrive, I think.
And you also have to be honest and upfront whether this is going to be casual dating, long term, or something somewhere in between.
Yep.
So don't just lie to someone when you have other intentions and lead this person on, because that's not fair to that person and it will end ugly.
Yeah. Well, you talk about communication right there. You know what I mean? Have the open lines of communication. I got this thing I call HOT. Be honest, open, and transparent. And I'm not saying all of that is easy to do. You know what I mean? But I guarantee it'll be easier in the long run of things. You know what I mean? Being upfront with some people. And you never know. I just saw somebody, if I'm not mistaken, has about 3 girlfriends right now. I think I'm not going to say his name, but it's an entertainer out there that just came out with, I got 3-4 girlfriends. So you never know what people are going to agree to. Now, I think that's 3-4 more headaches than, one should ever want. You know what I mean? But needless to say, if that's what you want, go for it. But be honest to those individuals, don't lead them on. Don't use omission because omission is a form of lying. You know what I mean? I think if you be upfront and honest with individuals, they'll be more inclined to respect you and understand where you're coming from and be willing to work on whatever it is that you want to work on.
Mm-hmm. So this day and age of dating, it can definitely be difficult because we're trying to live up to what we see on social media.
Facts.
And we know that 99% of that stuff is a lie.
Yep. I forget what song it was, but Jadakiss said 85% of people lie in their rhymes, right? And he also said, why do people have to do 85% of their time talking to fat? But anyway, yeah. So same thing on social media, you know what I mean? It could be 85, and that 85 number could have grown up to 99%, like you just said. But most people are going to put on their highlight reel when you see on social media and things of that nature. They're not going to put their lowlights up for you to see. So take it with a grain of salt, you know what I mean? And be cognizant of who you hold up as a mentor, because a lot of people got this whole inclination like, powerful couples and couple role models and things like that. But you don't know the things that those couples are going through because you only seeing the highlights that they put out there for you to see. You don't know the day-to-day. You don't know the ins and outs. You don't know the growing pains that they had. You know what I mean? We normally talk about somebody having success as an overnight success, but that person been working for a lifetime, 20 plus years. But you see year 21 and you're like, oh, it's an overnight success because you hadn't seen the hard work that they put in to get there. Same thing with these relationships, is no different. Use people that that you can touch, that you can go to and talk to, how they got here, you know what I mean? And I think that'll help you with your relationship. You can't just look on social media or online to be like, man, this couple goes right here, or that's a powerful couple right here, because maybe they both successful in something other than their profession. And now you put them together and like, oh, that's a powerful couple. You don't know it, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying athletes and entertainers or entertainment you can't find that in, but it's very rare. These people are everyday individuals that are right next to you. Have a conversation with them. I see individuals in a restaurant and they walk in, and if you could just get a moment of just a moment of their time to ask them, hey, how did you guys get here? You know what I mean? Or maybe they're waiting in line, maybe they're waiting for their table or waiting to be seated. And you're like, hey man, y'all, y'all young lads, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You use a icebreaker to, hold the door open for them, you know what I mean? And ask them a question, man, how long have y'all been together? Oh, we've been together X, Y, and Z years. Give me the secret. You know what I mean? You may have to pay for their dinner. You may want to pay for their drink. It doesn't, whatever for that secret or for that moment of, whatever your appreciation for taking that second out of their day. You know what I mean? And, I do that a lot. You know what I mean? It's a number of people that I done passed by just holding the door open. And I remember they had to come back and get me one time because me and, the wisdom, I like to call them, the people that came before, we up and having a whole conversation about from relationship, now we talking about football, you know what I mean? And they appreciate that as well too, you know what I mean? They appreciate it, I promise you they do, especially if you go up to them, with the right demeanor and the right mindset, giving them, blessings on, man, I love what y'all have here, y'all look beautiful, you know what I mean? They appreciate that as well.
And I do remember what the wife said. She looked at me. They were, I would say, anywhere between maybe 70, 75 years old. She said, they over there talking about women.
Yeah, she said, yeah, I love it though, you know what I mean? But look, I can't tell you who they were.
No.
You know what I mean? Still till this day. It was just
somebody's grandparents at a basketball tournament.
That's it, you know what I mean? And that's the thing that you need to do. And I'm gonna say this too, man. I said this before, I'm gonna go a different direction. Right now, it's young ladies that's been schooled to take advantage of men. Now hold on, man. Don't take it twisted, right? It's young ladies out there that have mothers that have been taken advantage of by a man, so they're grooming their daughter to go after certain type of men, how to deal with these certain type of men, and it's on the internet right now. You go look up some of these women and their kids. And I ain't gonna lie though, there are also men out there that's being groomed to take advantage of the women. I remember I was at a bar, and I don't drink, but I was just sitting at the bar to pass time, getting my food because I was dolo. And unbeknownst, the young lady that has been, I'm a creature of habit. So if I like energy, I like mood. So if the restaurant, because I wasn't at a bar, I was at a restaurant, I was at a bar in the restaurant. And if they treat me the right way and they treat me the way I want to be treated as far as, with respect, you know what I mean? And make me feel good with my interaction by going to this establishment, I will go there again. So the young lady that has been there that was waiting on me, I didn't know she got involved with somebody other than, me coming in because I didn't see outside this establishment. So I had ties to the entity or that the young man worked for. So I'm just eating my lunch like I normally do. And she made mention to me how the young man took advantage of her. And I'm not just talking about take advantage in a way where, how we hear that, man, there's women out there that's gonna trap these young men and get pregnant by them. I had never heard this before in real time. I've never heard that before from a man's perspective, that he was gonna trap a young lady and getting her pregnant. And I heard that. And then this young lady told me, hey, you need to show so-and-so how to be a man. You need to do something to show him how to be a man. And that happened to me a couple of times before, but it was based off of mentoring and, sports related or some type of a coaching perspective where You know, a mom came up to me and said, you teach that man how to be a man. I'm like, whoa, he's a grown man. I'm a grown man. You want me to teach another grown man how to be a man? That's tough, mom. He's like, yeah, you need to teach him how to be a man. I'm like, okay, mom, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? But he got a parent, you know what I mean? So this young lady told me that. And that blew my mind. And to see that play out is just a wild thing, you know what I mean? That it's not only, so women, you have to be cognizant. There's some guys out there that like the way you look, that's over there saying, I'm gonna get her pregnant. And you don't know it. Vice versa, it's some women out there, you young guys, man, you talking about having these fantasies and these fetishes and things like that, that's looking to, you know, trap you as well. So it goes both ways. It's not just a one-sided thing. I know we like to say it's a double standard. Yeah, some things may be a double standard, but I've saw this happen on both sides of things. So I ain't gonna overtalk you. I know you see you had a couple of questions that you're gonna shoot out.
Let's see. One of the questions were, all right. Just like I mentioned about social media, and they look at and follow what they see on social media. And this is, you're just answering generally just to give people who are looking to date information. How important is social media in your relationship?
Well, I think it'd just be a part of the device. So, you know, device is a part. It's a smartphone. How are you using it? You know what I mean? Because you can go on social media and find out a lot about an individual. You know what I mean? How they present themselves. You know, I shouldn't be saying this, but some people can have professional social media pages. And some people could just have, you know, social media pages that is cringe worthy. Like, I know you and I don't know you, you know what I mean, because of what they put out on social media. This is men and women. It has nothing to do with, you know, sex right now, you know what I mean? So understanding what that person is putting out on social media should be vital. And if they're putting out too much, that's probably a red flag. If you're privy to the DMs, then did they DM you? You know what I mean? All right, they DM me, then is this a, you know, because DMs like text message now. But understand, text message, I had to have your number to text you. You can DM anybody that you can just go down and press A. The whole list of A is gonna come up, you know what I mean? Vice versa, A, B. So you can DM people all day that you have no idea who they are. So that's a little scary, you know what I mean? If people are just, yeah, we met on social media. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? And I've never been a person that, I'm not saying they don't work. I don't know anything about a dating site. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, they do have the shows, you know, the TV shows.
Love Islands and Temptation Island and
something about my fiance or my wedding something, and they get married, whether they want to choose that person or not. And you have like maybe 24, 48 hours to decide.
Yeah, it's tough. You know? But we live in a microwave society, so I don't, you know what I mean? So we want everything fast now. We want commitment. We want a partner. We want a partner that's financially secure. We want, you know what I mean? So we want all those things. So, man, your social media presence is like a footprint now, you know what I mean? Because if you're not putting out good stuff, then even if a person is putting out good stuff, you still got to go do your due diligence in learning that person now, right? Because I told you, you're only going to put out the highlights. So if you only put out your highlights on social media, I want to get to know you to understand your lowlights. Not that it's going to deter me away. It may, because if you're lying about your lowlights and you're not working on them to become better, then there's probably a person that I don't want to be with. But if you are putting out everything on social media, then that definitely should be a red flag, you know what I mean? So I would say, even if you meet somebody on social media, you should take your time in getting to know that person in real life. Does that make sense? So it plays a big role, but I still want to, it's just another phase. It's just another opportunity that I get to learn you and know about you. But I don't just rest assured on this platform. All right, man, social media say you French, oui, oui. And then, you know, I move forward.
Gotcha. Okay.
I give you one more question. That's it. Nah, I'm just picking.
Going into, because we're talking about how most people have to find dates or partners or something, like you said, sliding in the DMs and y'all go out on a date, or if somebody say, hey, such and such is on Instagram, TikTok, or whatever, holler at that person. What's your relationship history like? Should that be something that I'm gonna tell you what I want to tell you, or let me just put everything on Front Street and be honest? How do you think that goes with dating nowadays?
Well, a lot of people have everything already out there. So if you follow them, you probably done saw everything that they done put out. You know what I mean? But for a person that's more private and you don't have the information, again, couch time, courting. You know what I mean? Going, sitting down, talking, actually asking them questions about, and I think that takes time and it takes familiarity to get to a level of just asking you about life outside of what we're doing right now, right? So in that time, I think a lot of that stuff cross off. I think what we're doing now is just trying to speed it up, have that microwave effect. I see your face, I see this, I see what you're putting out, that's what I want. But then we find out that's not who that person actually is. You know what I mean? And I think that's where the problem lies, because I got involved with my perception of you, but then I found out who you really is, and I'm not really willing to stay for that. And I think that's why divorces and splits up are happening at an alarming rate, just because we don't know who that individual really is. So I think I asked you a question. Say that again, though. My fault. You know what I mean? Just because I want to be honest about it. You know what I mean? Individuals are getting in line and getting involved with some individuals that I just see alarming things. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just to find out, your history and get to know that person.
So that's what
just to be aware.
Yeah, I see alarming things. You see individuals. I'm just talking about that's well known, right? And I'm not just saying that this is where the end all and be all stops at for a relationship, as far as being well known, being what they want to call them a celebrity, or having a level of fame. But you see individuals that had an issue with another person in front of you. And then I see individuals get in the same line to go date that young lady or date that young man. Mm-hmm. Like you have to be a little humble to say, like, hold up. I just saw that individual had a relationship that didn't work out. I have to ask myself, what makes me different?
Well, maybe they didn't know.
They know. Because these things are, I see a lot of people have the same mother of kids. I see a lot of, people that have kids for a certain person, go get in line. I see people that have dated, this is out there, you know what I mean? So we just passing this individual around. For men, if I'm not mistaken, it's 9 women for every 1 man out there, if I'm not mistaken. So how are you dating the same woman? How? You know what I mean? And in these entertainment and athletic pools, it's not big. So a lot of these individuals are getting in line for the same people. Like, I hope it worked. I'm being optimistic for you, but you saw this individual has some type of issue with the person that they was dating before you, so why go get in line with that? So I think take your time. I'm not going to say no genre or whatever you want to call it, people should be off limits, because it's bad lawyers, bad doctors, bad teachers, you know what I mean? It's not just people in the entertainment world. Now, we talk about people making a certain amount of money as far as salary that they, but, there's bad people all over the world. Doctors, lawyers, teachers, coaches. Doesn't matter what your profession is. It matters about your integrity. It matters about your character and how you're willing to put that on Front Street. And more importantly, it matters about what you believe in, something greater than yourself. Because if you only believe in something that's, equal to yourself, then you're going to be wrong. You have to believe in something greater than yourself, because you can always take your side. If I'm the hierarchy, I'm always be right. If it doesn't go higher than me. But I have to have something over me that governs me that's, greater than, just me. The universe have to be a part of it. And I'll say this too. I have a lot of individuals that, that was in, the profession that I was in, and they were scared about dating because they felt like people wasn't gonna like them for who they were, who they are. They were gonna like them for what they represent and what they have accomplished in their life. So that's a tricky thing too. But I still think that it's somebody out there for everybody. You have to take the time and do the work on yourself first, and you attract what you're looking for. But if you out there just looking for it, 9 times out of 10 you won't find it. But when you sit down, be still, do the work on yourself, the things that you need help with, go help and work on those things. And I think that's how you find the right. It was another young lady that just came out recently, Tracy Ellis, talking about, her dating experience now, and, she don't have any kids and things of that nature. You know what I mean? So you telling me you ain't passed no good men, or you just bypassing because you didn't think that they was on your level and you was looking for something that was, and I'm not just talking about her, you know what I mean? Just, how did that happen? But I feel like working on yourself, understanding who you are as a person, man, a law of attraction, let me tell you. Right now, if you're out there, if you talk about red sports cars, you're going to go on the highway and all you're going to identify is red sports cars. If you talk about black pickup trucks, whatever you put in your mind, law of attraction, it's going to happen. You're going to start seeing it. Now, it's not that those things wasn't there before, right? It's that, your thought process is on it, so now you see it clearly. I'm saying when you're looking for a good man, they're out there, but they're probably not going to be at the places that you're going to look for. If I'm going to the club or I'm going to the restaurant, you know what I mean? They may not be there. And if they're at the restaurant, they're probably with somebody. So work on yourself. You may see that good man in between stops coming from the gym. You may see that good man walking down the street, leaving his session. You may see him on Sunday, you know what I mean, leaving from church. Like, they're not going to be, vice versa, a good woman. If you're going to the club looking for a good woman, it's very rare that you're going to find that woman at the club. That's not where they go. And I'm not saying you can't catch them out one time, but that's rare. Chilling with their girls, and they're going to have cold, vice versa. So, work on yourself. And when you work on yourself, man, and the law of attraction is going to bring what you want. And if you're working on yourself, when it does present itself, you'll be ready for it. And you won't miss out on the opportunity. So that's our show for today. Though it's been great. We talked about a lot of things. Like I said, getting those comments. Anything that you need to fact check, do it. Like, subscribe. If you may, turn on the notification bell. That'll help us. You know what I mean? We want to spread the message and also make sure that we provide a perspective that you can hang your hat on and live and be a more productive citizen in this world. Like we always say, we love you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we out.